Alright, one of the well-dressed main antagonist boss unit has been revealed, and it's one of those end of series boss units where they have their own unique mechanic to it, just because. So let's begin. But first, cards for the last few days, which also includes Dokkovan. So we start off with the Dokkovan set with Dark State cards, Clean Sweep Dragon, which is grade 2 with taking power and the skills. Act Rearguard once per turn. If you persona ride this turn, cost counterblast 1. Choose up to 3 rear guards among yours and your opponent and put them to the respective player's soul. And then for each card chosen by this effect, during this turn, this card gets plus 5k power. Honestly, this is actually pretty powerful. Sure, it's a persona ride thing, but making your opponent lose 3 cards straight up is very powerful. Yes, you still put them to soul, but your opponent doesn't really use much soul anyway, not like that's gonna really matter. That's gonna be a -3. And in a way, since this is Dark States, you can choice soul charge as well, which can give you more access to your own stuff as well. Definitely worth running. And then for the Dark State Dragontree Fallen Fruit Demon Shuroth. Grade 1 AK power and skill is same first skill where when placed on rearguard as auto, cost counterblast 1, choose 1 rearguard without a Dragontree marker and put a Dragontree marker on it. Second skill, the unique one in a way, is act rearguard once per turn. If your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, cost soul blast 2, choose 1 grade 1 or lower unit from your soul and call it to rearguard in the same column as this unit. Now with the main boss unit revealed, it actually makes sense why it kind of gets these type of abilities, and to be honest, the generic call does help sometimes, and Dark States overall shouldn't have too much of a soul issue. Next for Cater Sanctuary double rare, Resentment Dragon, which is a grade 2 with taking power and the skill is auto. When placed on rearguard by card's ability, cost soul blast 2, counter charge 1, and this card gets with 5k power to end turn. Soul blasting 2 for a counter charge 1 that is also restricted to being a superior call. I say it's okay for those decks that don't have soul issue, but for 1 counter charge for losing 2 soul might not be worth it depending on the deck. And also quite restrictive as well. Although since this is Cater Sanctuary we're talking about, that shouldn't be too hard to pull off. And now to the Dokkovan stream itself. The new villain boss unit along with his starter is Nationless, in which we start off with the starter Griphogila, which is of course grade 0, and this is not a typical D series starter. So if you have this card in your ride deck, you have to have a total of 5 cards in your ride deck, including this card. That being 3 Calamity cards along with it, and an Overtrigger. And yes, for ruling purposes, you still need to have a grade 0, 1, 2, and 3 in your ride deck. And the Overtrigger still counts as part of your main deck count as well for your ride deck because ride deck ruling. So meaning that you're going to have 15 main deck triggers. Anyway, for the skill is Count Vanguard. This card gets plus 2k power for every Calamity card in your soul with different names. The idea is that you're going to be putting Calamity cards in your soul, your 3 Calamity cards, until it hits like a grade 3 type level, aka it will be 12k power with the 3 Calamity cards. This is so you can still attack your opponent without issue. But anyway, second skill, Auto Vanguard. At the beginning of your main phase, choose a Calamity card from your ride deck and put it to soul. And that's how it builds up the first skill. And then after that, put 3 Calamity cards from your soul that were from your ride deck into your ride deck face up, and then search from your hand or deck for 1 Dragontree of Ecliptic, Decimation, Griphogila, and ride it as stand. Of course, if you search from your deck, you shuffle it. And then if you wrote a card, you choose 2 of your rearguards and put a Dragontree marker on them. So like I said, the idea is basically you build up those Calamity cards like you're riding them, but it's in the reverse, you're putting them to soul. And then once you hit your 3rd Calamity card, you superior ride your boss unit. And here are the Calamity cards. Start of an End, Minasinus Metamorphosis, and Looming Demise, which of course is grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3, which all have the same skill where search your deck for 1 Calamity card, reveal it, and put it to your hand by counterblasting 1. Honestly, this skill is not really going to matter as you're just going to be putting it in your ride deck, unless for future reference, who knows. And keep in mind, these do not belong in any nation, so basically the Cray Elemental rulings. In which we go to Dragontree of Ecliptic, Decimation, Griphogila, which is a grade 10, not grade 3 or 4, grade 10. And of course Nationless, the race being a Hydrogram. That might be important in the future, but just remember the race is Hydrogram. Anyway, it has 13k power, so it's still basic grade 3 right there. And the skill is Count Vanguard. During turn, this card gets us 5k power for each Dragontree marker on your rearguard. If you have 3 or more Dragontree markers, crit plus 1. Griphogila already builds up 2, and with the Dragontree Fallen units, you can actually get your 3rd one quite easily. And being a 28k beer with 2 crits every single turn isn't too bad. But anyway, second skill, Auto Vanguard. Once per turn, when this card attacks the Vanguard, choose one face-up Calamity card from your ride deck and remove it from the game. If you did not remove a card, you choose one over trigger from your ride deck, reveal it, and activate all its trigger effects along with its additional effect, and then remove it. And then stand all your rear guards with Dragontree markers on them. Yep, that's why the over trigger is in your ride deck. This is so you can activate its win condition, aka use the over trigger ability. Overall, it's another one of those unique boss units in Vanguard, giving me those Glendios, Gyze, or Demiurge vibes right here. Luckily, not as ridiculous as the other ones, but since people hate over triggers, I could see why they would kind of hate this card. The only thing is building a deck around this card, because building a deck around this card is kind of weird, and there's not too many generic cards for every nation. People can debate on which over trigger is the best, but depending on which nation, it does actually make it harder to use. For example, Brandgate, the nation that requires set orders for it to function. Basically, you need the right deck for it to function. I would say Dragon Empire, since Eugene can be a good option with a bunch of generic cards for Eugene anyway, or you could even try Overdress if you want to try that. It is up to you, but it's just weird to build this deck because it's just a unique boss unit. But overall, I do like the cool concept. And now for some rulings, just to confirm some stuff. So first off, this card is treated basically like a Cray Elemental. Sure, it's nationless, but it follows the Cray Elemental rulings, meaning that if you pick a certain nation, you must stick with that nation, or in Premium case, you stick with the same clan. Remember, the over trigger counts as part of your trigger amount count, so meaning that your main deck will consist of 15 main triggers. Your ride deck of Calamity cards must still be all different grades, because that ruling of ride deck of one of each grade still applies here. Griffle Seed being the grade 0, so meaning 1, 2, and 3, and the over trigger still being a grade 0. But when you put the Calamity cards in Soul for your Griffle Seed, you can put them in any order you wish, because it doesn't specify on going in order of grade. So that's it for these reveals. What do you guys think about the new Dragontree main antagonist boss unit? I think it's just a cool concept. I already like the Dragontree design as it is. Now, I won't exactly build a deck around it, because building a deck around it is going to be really awkward as it is, because you practically need to find a lot of generic cards on the nation that you want to play it with. Sure, I get the idea of people hating over triggers because getting it is basically you win or you lose, or it's just whatever luck. But overall, I do like the idea of the Dragontree. At least it's not like another one of those ridiculous win cons like Glendios or Gyze, and at least that this card feels a little more like Demiurge fare. The only thing is, this card is kind of being played by the second main antagonist of the series. There is the big boss himself, so who knows what that guy will be playing. But on that, that's it for this, and see you all next time.